Flexen here for Seconds Out. Delighted to be joined once again by Hall of Fame promoter Frank Warren. Very busy time, and of course yesterday celebrated, I don't know if that's the right word, I don't know, did you celebrate your 40 years in boxing? It was the anniversary yesterday. Did you have a little party in the office?
All the pubs are shut, mate. No social gatherings. We will do, though, tomorrow.
Tomorrow, yeah?
Yeah. We have a little celebration tomorrow.
Oh, lovely. I hope someone's got you a cake.
A bigger one when we can all get together.
Yeah, we'll look forward to that. It's been a very, very busy week, and we'll talk about the Anthony Yard Lyndon Arthur show in due course. But obviously, we've just come off huge show. And before we look at the fight itself between Daniel Dubois and Joe Joyce, what are the early indications in terms of viewership on BT? Is it going to be a big number? Are you happy?
Yeah, we haven't got the final numbers yet, Dan, but I understand it's peaked the highest audience of subscription TV this year. So again, we've delivered the biggest audience for the second year running.
Oh, that's excellent. You must be delighted with that. You beat your own record.
Yeah, well, I like beating my own records. No, we beat our own record. And once we got all the numbers together, which we should, I was hoping we hadn't today. As soon as we got them, we'll put them out there.
I mean, absolutely huge fight, both in the build-up, everyone was looking forward to it, and people are still talking about it now, which is usually a good sign. Didn't go the way you predicted, and probably not exactly the way you hoped either. But how do you assess the fight? I'm sure you've watched it back at least once.
It wasn't how I hoped, Dan. I hoped it would be a good fight. First and foremost, we're promoters. And the two fighters have different respective managers. I was asked my opinion. You asked me my opinion. And I said I fancied Daniel to win the fight in a tough fight. And I said that I didn't think he'd go the distance. And I said that it's going to be about the jabs. You know, who goes out there and gets the game plan going. And that's, you know, Joe did. He done Daniel's eye. Was it in the sort of first round, second round, and it was closing up after that. And he continued to work on that eye. And there were his tactics. And they were very, very successful. That's what happened, and he boxed very well. But scoring-wise, there was nothing in it. I had Daniel, I think, about a round up. I said some people had it the other way round. Two judges, the border control judge, 2 of the 3 had him up. So it was all set for a great final 3 rounds. But it had never got there anyway. You know, that eye was closed. It was all over. And, you know, he'd have been pulled out at the end of the round. They've had to pull him out anyway. But, you know, Daniel quite right wisely, and now we know, with the benefit of hindsight, we know the reason why he took the knee, because of the terrible pain he was getting. He was in excruciating pain from the nerve damage, and we've had the diagnosis now. He's attended aesthetics, which is specialises in eye injuries, on 3 days running now, because a lot of things they can't do because his eye's still swollen. So it's not like they can do anything till that swelling goes down. But they've diagnosed, and we had that written confirmation today, that he has a broken orbital. It's the floor bone of the orbital that's broken. He had a hemorrhage in his retina, and had it continued, it may have caused, hopefully not, but it may have caused a detached retina or serious eye damage, which would have been the end of his career. So he did exactly the right thing. And what annoys me about it is, and I've got to say it, is, and I've said it in other interviews, is you got that moron over at Matchroom stating, you know, that we made this up. It was a lie. You'd like to see the evidence, and it, you know, basically calling everybody a liar without any consideration, or waiting for some medical, you know, waiting for for what was from a doctor. You know, he's suddenly an expert on eye injuries, which he should be after putting in Kell Brook in tough fights, which damaged his eye sockets twice, you know, over his weight division. But that's what it is, and it annoys me. And I think yesterday something went out about me. It's all it's all fair game, because I had to go at Dillian Whyte after he got beat, and I said, "You're not a mandatory anymore." Well, that was right. I was absolutely delighted Dillian Whyte got beaten. The reason I was delighted he got beaten, because he got rid of the obstacle that he was, so that we could get straight to the fight that everybody, all the fans want to see, which is Tyson Fury against Anthony Joshua. I didn't criticise or say he wasn't injured or he wasn't knocked out. no more than when AJ had his fight against Ruiz in New York, and the referee asked him, did he want to fight on? And he obviously was in problems, and he said no. And Hearn immediately afterwards came out and said he was concussed. Did I say, he wasn't concussed? It was a lie. I said, he couldn't carry on, and that was it. I thought he was concussed. I heard he was concussed going into the fight, and I remember saying at the time, anybody who put him in that fight whilst he was concussed should be ashamed of themselves. But the fact of the matter is, Daniel did the right thing, and I'm very grateful to the people in the trade, such as Anthony Joshua, who came out quite, in support of Daniel's decision today. And I'll take my hat off to Anthony for doing that, and to Anthony Agogo, who actually been through it, and his career was wrecked as a result of continuing to fight while he could only see 20% out of his eye. Derek Chisora, not made it public. He sent a very supportive message, and as did David Hay, who sent him a supportive message after knowing what the full facts are. So, it was, it is what it is. He took a knee. He took the knee and he went down to take a respite because he was in terrible pain and he just could not see out his eye. And I've just been speaking to the doctor, and she just told me, you get a jug and a glass of water and you try and close one eye and tip the water into the glass, it won't go in the glass because you can't see. All your distancing's gone and so forth. He couldn't see out of his eye anyway for nearly 3 rounds. That being said, all this, what's going down there, is taking it away from the winner, who fought extremely well in a very high tempo, fast fight. I think they threw so many punches, many more punches than you normally get in a heavyweight fight. It was exciting. And, Joe Joyce done tremendously well and set himself up for some big fights for next year. And it's unfortunate all this other stuff has basically become such an issue.
I'll try not to dwell on that other stuff for too long.
No, I haven't got a problem. You look at this. You started off by saying, 40 years and what am I doing? What I've been doing for the last couple of days, over my 40th anniversary of being in the game, is being astonished by the lack of empathy, the lack of any common sense from people. Anthony Joshua made I never even thought about it. He made quite a real telling comment. MMA fighters, which we all think is quite brutal, and people look at it and, they love all the violence of it. They can tap out. They're getting hurt. They tap out.
I made the same comment to Darren Hanley yesterday.
Yeah, well, you obviously been doing all these interviews, and I'll go back to, and I said it again on a few interviews. You go Ben McClellan. I promoted that fight, and he went down on one knee in that fight, McClellan. And Freddie Pacheco, who was Ali's doctor, Muhammad Ali's doctor, who said that Ali should never fight again. He was commentating for Showtime and said at the time that, basically quit, or he dogged it, whatever the phrase was, what he used, when 3 hours later he was having a blood clot removed from his brain, and unfortunately now he's in a wheelchair and blind. So it's very easy for all these people to say these things. That there is a reason. And I've said things in the past when I've looked at fighters and I've said, he didn't fancy it or he's quit. And I've seen fighters quit. Roberto Duran wasn't injured. He just quit in his fight against Ray Leonard. He quit in that fight because he was getting outboxed, and that's what happened. But I just felt that it was all totally unnecessary, and I thought Hearn was totally out of order. He should know better than that, being an ex-amateur fighter. I want to see that card, by the way, that amateur club that he was at. He should know what fighters go through when they get hit.
I mean, I should say he didn't say it was an out-and-out lie. What he said was that most fighters would have put an X-ray up, which I thought was unnecessary in itself.
No, he didn't say that. He said they were no. He said they were lying. I've seen the quotes. That's what he said. That's what he said. And by the way, you put an X-ray up. Well, he put this comment out Monday morning. What would he have? We got all this information. You have to go through a process.
Put an X-ray up anyway, I think is the point.
Anyway, but the fact, I'm going to put an X-ray up for him, but the fact is that the letter that we received from the doctor and what's going to happen, we will post that when we get it.
Now, we talked about all the
And we're
unnecessary.
expecting, and he should then apologise unreservedly to Daniel Dubois.
Now, one element of this I did want to ask you about is the effect on Daniel Dubois, not just of the defeat itself, which was obviously very painful, both physically and emotionally, but the aftermath. Like you said, there's a lot of unnecessary comments. It's not just been Hearn. There's been plenty of other. His might be egregious, but there's a lot of other people that have said things that
Well,
are ultimately not
his was
fair.
basically was a pop at me, wasn't it? That's really what he's at. But in some ways, I get that, but it was done in a bad way. Look, how does Daniel feel? He's disappointed. He's absolutely disappointed. He felt he was still in the fight, even with one eye, but it was what it was, and he's obviously going mega pressure on him for his next fight. Please God, he can fight again. He'll have mega pressure on him, and he'll prove everybody wrong, or he won't. I think he will.
Have you spoken to him much since the fight, and how aware is he of some of the stuff that is coming out on social media and so on, and the ex-fighters and stuff?
I've spoken to him, and I've spoken to his father more, and obviously they're very, very disappointed, very, very disappointed. But it is what it is. That's the world we're in now, isn't it? That's how it is. That's the world we're in, and it's up to them now which they will, to prove them wrong.
There's been a lot of comments both before the fight and since the fight about Joe Joyce's relationship with you guys. You're obviously in a long-term promotional agreement. He's a Queensberry Promotions fighter. But going into the Dubois fight, and he said this himself, he felt a little bit like an outsider in his own promotional company because Dubois was with you from the very start of his career. What happens now with Joe? Is it you get right behind him and everything that would have been there for Daniel is now there for Joe?
Look, I bought his contract, or Queensberry bought his contract from Richard Schaefer. We paid hundreds of thousands of dollars for that contract. We give him 2 fights, Ustinov and Jennings. Big, quite, ranked guys. We got him in there with them. We give him a platform. He's had numerous fights with him. I said before the fight there'll be a winner and a loser. I said that the winner will go on to big things next year, which they will, and we will not be dropping out the loser, and we won't. And we will get behind him. Of course, he feels like an outsider. We signed Daniel. Daniel was with us before he was. I understand his feelings from that, but I've never said anything disparaging against him. I mean, Hearn, and I keep mentioning people. They'll keep going on about him. Hearn's now saying he's a world-class fighter. Before the fight, he said they were 2 novices. Yeah. They did, and that's the point I'm making about all this. They were both world-class fighters. They were both world-ranked, both from ranks in top 10s of various governing bodies. Joe now will benefit from that. He'll benefit from that, and I think Sam Jones actually said yesterday what it is. They're with Queensberry, which they are contractually, but it's not just contractually. We'll do everything we can to move him forward, and I'll put everything I can on my resources to ensure he gets his shot at the world title this year. And by the way, who knows? There'll be a rematch down the road. There's some good fights to be made there with him.
On that subject of a potential world title shot, the president of the WBO, Paco Valcarcel, went on social media in the days leading up to the fight to talk about whether the international belt would be on the line or not. Will that have any impact now on Joe?
It was on the line. It was on the line. Yeah.
So will Joe logically take Daniel's position with the WBO as number 2?
We'll find out when they do their next ratings.
But is that what you'd expect, and would you push for that?
What I'd like. It's what I'd like. That's what I'd like, but we'll see what happens.
And if he does, we don't know if Anthony Joshua is going to vacate that WBO belt or not, but if he does, would you like to see Joyce's next fight be with Usyk, or would you like to see him have 1 or 2 more first?
No, look, I know what I'd like to see, and I know what he wants, and his connections want, and they want that fight. They made that very clear after the fight, didn't they? I mean, I don't need me to bang the drum saying what they want. They know what they want. They've said what they want.
Do you fancy him strongly against Usyk? For me, I think Joshua matches up better style-wise with Joe. I think Joshua's a better fight for Joe than Usyk.
Look, I would, before the fight, I said I fancied either of the guys against Usyk. And the reason I say that, because they're big men, and Joe's an even bigger guy. And I think the only concern with a lot of people, maybe with Joe, was is that what was his speed going to be like? What tempo does he fight at? But as he showed in the fight on Saturday, it was fought, as I mentioned earlier, a very, very high tempo. The fitness levels were amazing with both the guys. And for him being 35 years of age, the amount of shots that he threw, the same as with Daniel as well, both of them threw, as I said, I'm repeating myself, more. I think it's nearly double the amount of punches normally a heavyweight throws in a fight. So I wouldn't have a problem with him with Usyk. Usyk's he moves, he's fast. How do I think Joe Joyce would go with Chad Witherspoon? I think he'd stop him all day long. With Derek, it's another great fight, but I've got to fancy him big time in that one. I think he's got to beat them. But the only way you're going to find that out, it's all opinions, is for them to get in the ring and fight each other.